Western Cape MEC for Community Safety and Police Oversight, Reagan Allen, joins us now for an update. MEC, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Are you concerned about tomorrow, or are you sufficiently prepared that, as your Premier says, will be a normal day?
Peter, thank you so much for this particular opportunity. Here in the Western Cape, we are ready. We are determined to ensure that our residents and our businesses remain open and that we have a safe day tomorrow. We fully understand, and as the Premier have indicated in that particular insert, it's very clear that the Western Cape government and the City of Cape Town obtained the interdict to ensure that we are safe tomorrow, because we have seen and we have heard the messages that is coming from the EFF. The messages are loud, the messages are very clear that businesses should close down or face looting and face violence, and that can never be condoned. And this particular interdict, Peter, prohibits the EFF from harassing or intimidating residents or businesses concerning the shutdown, inciting violence or participating in violence, but also it prevents them from stopping any person that is wanting to operate his or her business or going to work, and this interdict will apply across the province. So we are confident that we have an integrated approach, which includes law enforcement, our LEAP officers, our Metro Police. I'm so delighted, Peter, and I want to mention this, that over the last 74 hours, we have received over 84 credible links to where tires and other sources of material were strategically stored at strategic points like intersections, for example, and we have confiscated over 7,300 tires, because that would have potentially been used to set a light and to block off our roads. And that information comes from neighborhood watches, from CPFs. We have over 17,000 neighborhood watch members that act as the eyes and ears on the ground. So we feel ready for tomorrow.
All right, so you mentioned all these tires that were going to be used tomorrow. Do you know who organized them? Because all the messages that we've been hearing from the EFF leadership for some time now is peaceful protests. They're saying that no one should be intimidated and that they have a history of peaceful marches. So where are these threats coming from?
Peter, the EFF and many of their leaders is on record on social media, where they are actively stating that if a business is going to be open, it will be looted. Messages from the leader of the EFF and other party members made similar comments, where a clear threat of violence, a clear threat of looting have been advocated. Obviously, in this particular instance, there will be political parties like the EFF that could potentially now say that they are wanting to have this particular march or shutdown in a peaceful way. So we are preempting. That's why we got the interdict. But from outside, it has been very, very clear. And the courts confirmed in that particular interdict that the EFF is then restricted from acting out in any form of inciting violence or potential looting, and the courts confirmed that already. I'm trusting that they will then ultimately be held accountable should there be any incidents where looting takes place in a small pocket, for example, that they will be held accountable.
This shutdown may be EFF-led, but even they are speaking of a movement of people generally who may not even be members of their party participating. How are you going to manage those that are not marching under the banner of EFF, that they will abide by this interdict, which is directed more towards organizers rather than ordinary citizens?
Peter, we are very clear in the Western Cape that each and every resident has a right to protest, have a right to march. However, it should be done in the confines of the law. The integrated approach will ensure that there is high visibility, but also that there is manpower on the ground to ensure that those marches are ultimately safe and that it's ultimately peaceful. If not, we will obviously then call that action should be taken and arrest should be made where any person is not acting within the confines of the law. So we are actively saying that if people are wanting to march, to protest, they should do so in the confines of the law, but they should not incite others. They should not harass any person to participate, and they should definitely not incite violence or participate in any form of violence. Otherwise, they will ultimately be arrested. That is what we have consistently said. So the high visibility, the number of operations that will be conducted, as you have stated earlier in the insert as well, in that the SANDF, via a national joint instruction, ultimately ensured that the SANDF will also be deployed to our province like it is to every other province, where they will also be situated at key strategic points, which includes our national key points as well. But we definitely feel, Peter, that on the one hand, yes, every person has a right to protest, to march, but it should be done in a peaceful way, and it should never inhibit the rights of others. It should never inhibit the rights of others. And if that happens, the law must actually then be enforced and people should be held accountable.
MEC, what do you say to people that are saying that the deployment of the army is an overreach and this is an overreaction, and that the Constitution itself and the right to march and protest is threatened by such action and in fact is provocative?
The army will not be in our residential areas. It will be at strategic key points, and that decision has been made by our national government to deploy. So from our side, we can welcome that, Peter, in the sense that we do have key points that are very strategic. So we are wanting to ensure that those places are safe and that any person would not want to go near that particular place in order to create a sense that it could bring our entire province to a standstill. But I can understand the sentiment, Peter. In this particular role, on a daily basis, I understand that we need additional boots on the ground. I can understand that we need more SAPS officers, and I can sense the mood on the ground. But what I would like to share is that we live in a democracy and we need to follow the law. We need to abide by the law. And 2024, we have an election. And for those that are deeply upset or deeply in conflict with the national government, they would have a right in order to exercise their voting power in 2024 in order to effectively make that change.
What do you say to citizens that say, how is it that tomorrow suddenly you've got enough police, enough resources to maintain law and order, and then the other 364 days of the year, you're not there?
I've been very clear with residents in that regard because we have been calling for that as well, for additional boots. In this particular incident, Peter, as many residents and as you would understand, is that you have X amount of SAPS officers that will be deployed at any given time. Then you have another amount that is on leave and that is currently booked off. So now a number of those, actually every SAPS member that has been booked on leave has been called to return to work. Those that are off duty will now be on duty. So there is an additional expense on the national government to ensure that these extra boots are in place to ensure that our province is safer. So this march, this protest is actually costing government so much money, where these additional resources and the boots on the ground will have to be obviously then compensated because they would be on leave or off duty. We are saying here is that I'm often reminded, Peter, in 2020, sitting in Parliament, where 11 billion rand was taken from the SAPS, from education, from justice, in order to bail out a state-owned entity like SAA. And it was money and funding that was taken from the South African Police Service and from other key departments. So we've seen when there's budget allocations from a national government to an entity like the South African Police Service, it hasn't been to address our needs here in our province.
Are resources in place in case there are mass arrests? We already have overcrowding in our facilities. Will you be able to manage if a lot of people are arrested tomorrow?
We definitely anticipate that the visibility and the boots on the ground will ensure that it is actually peaceful tomorrow. We are anticipating that the Western Cape will be open for business, in that we have already heard the Premier indicate that our taxi associations will not be participating. The Golden Arrow bus services will not be participating. So we have seen that there is a clear call from many business owners, from many within sectors in our society, that is wanting business to be open, the economy to be open, so that we can ultimately continue to grow the economy here in the Western Cape. It's been a very tough time since COVID-19 across our country and also in our province, but we've seen a steady growth now in the last quarter, Peter, where 98% of the new jobs that was created across our entire country was created here in the Western Cape, because we are wanting to ensure that our young people find employment. We want to ensure that our businesses continue to grow, and we want to create those conditions that is conducive for a business to grow. And one of that is safety. One of that is safety, so that they can ultimately grow their business and employ more people, so that our province can ultimately become safer.
MEC of Reagan, thank you so much indeed for joining us and giving us your insights about your state of preparedness for tomorrow in the Western Cape. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's the MEC for Community Safety and Police and Oversight, Reagan Allen, saying that his province is ready, and the interdicts that they got from the courts say that they fully support what they see as will be a normal day, and that those who want to go to work and businesses that want to open, that they'll be safe to do so.